Okay, now we're recording. Great. So my name is Brent Baylog, and I am with Clackamas Workforce Partnership, which is one of the state of Oregon's 9 nonprofit workforce development boards. Workforce boards were first established by the Federal Workforce Innovation Act, or WIA, as well as subsequent reauthorizations of that law, including the 2014 version, the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. And what these laws did, they helped govern investments in development of workforce programs, which includes employment readiness, skills development, and other education and training services available to the public throughout the United States. Workforce boards are responsible for using those federal funds as well as state and local resources in addressing regional workforce challenges. And the local workforce boards operate, they carry out these investments and help address workforce challenges with guidance from local employers, elected leaders, and government, as well as educational institutions and community-based organizations who help guide the use of these funds, as well as other activities carried out by the workforce boards to make sure that they meet the local need, including needs of job seekers and employers. So as I mentioned, CWP is one of Oregon's 9 workforce boards. We have 8 others in the state. And what the boards do is based on the resources, major industries, and other needs or considerations in that particular region. The boards work to develop training, education, skills development, and employment support programs that are reflective of the particular environments covered by their workforce region. So you can see to the left there, that highlights all of the regions in the state of Oregon. And while we are representative of Clackamas in particular, a lot of the information that I share today about the workforce boards in WorkSource Oregon is going to be relevant no matter where you are in the state, the same way that the Office of Developmental Disability Services is also a statewide service provider. So if you are not working in the Clackamas region, we are happy to, at the end of today or during follow-up after this presentation, make sure that you are connected to the workforce board that oversees the region in which you might be located. So a brief overview of CWP's core functions, and these apply to the other workforce boards in the state of Oregon as well. We, of course, as independent nonprofits, operate individually and uniquely in some ways, but these core functions remain the same. CWP is responsible for convening and coordinating what we call key stakeholders or key constituents from the private, public, and nonprofit sectors. And we work with these people and these institutions and representatives. We work to bring them to the table to help identify critical challenges that are facing not just employers, business owners, and industry and trades, but also things that are impacting individuals and communities, and work with them to develop collaborative solutions that help meet the needs of all parties involved. We also work to invest federal, state, and private dollars in training, education, and employment services, which as a workforce board, CWP does not provide direct service. Rather, we contract those funds out with community-based organizations and other social service and education service providers who then work directly with the public to provide employment and training services. One of the reasons CWP does not function as a direct service provider is that we have oversight of WorkSource Clackamas, which is a local one-stop shop for employment and training services. And in our role as the workforce board, we just work to ensure that all direct service providers are coordinating and working collaboratively to provide aligned service to customers as well as meet the objectives of any grants or funding streams that we may have. We also work to advocate in addressing disparities in access to training and education resources, as well as working to ensure equitable outcomes for the people and communities using the public workforce system. And we do this through systems level coordination and advocacy. As a workforce board, we like to say that the workforce system, is a system of other systems. And when I say that, I mean, we work with folks who are doing housing, doing traditional K through 12 education, adult education, alternative and community-based education, disability services, food security, all of those different things that can impact someone's life and their ability to work or to develop the skills they need to obtain work. We kind of sit at the nexus of all of those different systems and help to tie them together. And lastly, one of the core functions of the Workforce Board, as outlined in the federal WIOA Act, is to promote the employment of people with disabilities through providing accessible services and accommodations while they are using public workforce system resources, as well as to ensure coordination of resources between other institutions who work with people with disabilities to make sure that we are effectively using dollars and resources available to that community, as well as work with employers to make sure that they are trained and well equipped to not only hire, but to support, retain, and promote people with disabilities in their workplace. So you heard Bridget and I both mention the public workforce system, and I'll share a little bit more about that. WIOA, the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act that I mentioned earlier, one of the core components of that piece of federal law is the creation of a national network of employment and work readiness centers or career centers. Nationally, if they are funded through that WIOA law, they are known as the American Job Centers Network, and they can be found throughout the United States. Within each individual state, there may be a unique brand name used to identify those federal job center networks. So in Oregon, WorkSource Oregon is the brand name that refers to our state's public workforce system. WorkSource is a partnership between not only state agencies, but also educational institutions, community providers, and employers, as well as organizations or associations that help promote the interest of business owners, entrepreneurs, and employers. WorkSource helps job seekers and individuals find work, develop new skills, earn degrees or professional credentials, as well as participate in other types of skills development opportunities, career exploration, and economic mobility activities. WorkSource Oregon helps employers and business owners reach new talent and find skilled workers that they need to fill open positions, as well as provide additional services to employers that relate to business operations, sustainability and expansion, avoiding closures and layoffs, and training and upskilling their current workforce. So in Oregon, there are 37 regional offices called WorkSource centers. And depending on where they are in the state, they will work with a different workforce board. CWP only has one WorkSource center, and our only workforce region is Clackamas County. So the example to the right gives you an idea of what most WorkSource centers look like as far as the partners working within them. This image is specific to Clackamas County. However, it will look similar. Other WorkSource centers throughout the state have some of the same providers working in them, such as the Employment Department or the Oregon Department of Human Services, as well as Easter Seals and Job Corps. Other WorkSource centers might have different providers than the ones in Clackamas. You see there the logo for Clackamas County. that probably they're not going to be a provider or partner working in Douglas or Josephine counties. That would be those local governments fulfilling that same role. Similarly with IRCO, the Immigrant and Refugee Community Organization, who provides culturally specific services to immigrants, refugees, and non-native English speakers in the Clackamas County area. There might be a different nonprofit organization providing those same services in Eastern Oregon or in the northwestern part of the state or along the coast. So that just gives you a sense of what kind of providers are working as part of the WorkSource family. And you can learn more about WorkSource through visiting worksourceoregon.org, as well as the State of Oregon Employment Department website. And we will be sharing some more information out about WorkSource Oregon and the workforce boards as part of a follow-up to this presentation. So I'll go ahead and transition it back over to Julie and Allison to share more about the Office of Developmental Disability Services.
Good morning, I'm Julie Huber, and I'd just like to echo what Bridget said. Just so honored that everyone is here and everyone does great work. And I am thrilled to be here today because I think it is a meeting of two great systems. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about ODDS. We're probably the biggest agency you've never heard of. We are just like vocational rehab. We are part of DHS, but we are a separate division. We are a multi-billion-dollar division. Our budget is approximately $2 billion a year. And what we do is we provide supports to Oregonians with intellectual and developmental disabilities to live, work, and play in the community. So every facet of life. And employment is one of our top priorities. We're very unique in the country that it has been such a priority for such a long time. And our providers are very creative and innovative and always step up and do great work. We are excited to talk to you today because we think this partnership is unique. And everyone has their own talents. And if you'll forgive me, my best analogy is like, for those of you who are old enough to remember the Reese's peanut butter commercial, oh, you got my peanut butter in your chocolate, or you got your chocolate in my peanut butter. You wouldn't have a peanut butter cup without the chocolate or without the peanut butter. And this is the coming together of the disability field and workforce. Just do great things together. The disability field, of course, knows disability and employment. And the workforce, you make employment happen all the time with people. You have unique inroads into apprenticeship. Just a tremendous set of two communities to bring together. So we're really excited to be here. We do fund long-term services. So once someone goes to work, for example, we fund long-term job coaching. It can be for a month, it can be for as long as 2 years. It's based on what the person needs. Everything is individualized. I give those just as an example. We also fund benefits counseling, which is a financial service to help people plan and not lose their Medicaid or other benefits. But again, we are thrilled to be here and think this is just such a unique partnership. And I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Allison.
Hi, yeah. Oregonians with intellectual and developmental disabilities hold many different types of jobs and represent an incredible talent pool. ODDS has published many success stories you can find on our website showing people working as school bus drivers, machine operators, and working in many different types of jobs in the healthcare sector. People with intellectual and developmental disabilities bring tremendous contributions to the workplace that, they have technical skills, focus, reliability, and consistency. And again, just a really important talent pool for employers to tap into. ODDS too, we have a tremendous demand for employment service providers. We've even heard of instances where people are having to forego job opportunities because an employment service provider is not available. And the reports are just showing that even the growth in our service delivery system and the increased demand with people with intellectual and developmental disabilities wanting to access services in the community has grown nearly 400% over the last two decades. And, you know, we are anticipating just a tremendous growth and demand for services in what we see in 10-year projections. And of course, as you might anticipate, all of this shortage is really just exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic. As Julie kind of touched on, you know, ODDS is funded. We have a pretty sizable budget, and then it's funded through the Medicaid program, long-term care services. We receive a match on a federal match on state dollars. Medicaid is considered a workforce partner described under federal law, and just an important partner in the workforce delivery system. You know, as we'll describe too in our next slide, there just are opportunities for providers to improve stability for employment service delivery system. If you are taking advantage of delivering services through multiple funding streams. And also this partnership really engages and enhances and improves the experience for the job seeker. In creating a streamlined consistency with provider and provider collaboration. So this visual a little bit is intended to kind of show the opportunities for taking advantage of and looking at and considering the multiple funding streams. Intended to show how ODDS can fund, you know, some of the supports people might be looking for in terms of career exploration before getting a job, internships, job shadowing, that type of thing. And then also ODDS can fund the longer term job coaching. It's worth noting that our job coaching rate does pay up to $68.50 an hour, and that's based on the number of hours that the person works. This model is intended to incentivize provider fading and increased hours worked. And so it's available if someone is needing continued supports, long-term supports on the job, along with some of the other services that are also available to use in combination. So ODDS services can fund and enhance support with a job search, including things like transportation or personal care. But the thing that ODDS doesn't really fund is the support to actually get a job. We defer to our workforce partners on that and that skill set. And so I think, you know, we're trying to more show this as a way of like a continuum of options. No one particular service is certainly required. It's based on the person's interests and needs, but there is a fuller continuum of employment services if providers are signed up and available to deliver services through the multiple funding streams. We also see this, you know, just in terms of stability for the provider, for the job seeker, you know, as an opportunity to really enhance the total pool of employment service providers that are delivering services across our workforce system. I think the only last point I wanted to make sure to add, you know, a key with this is just ensuring that if you're sequencing services, that is identified and outlined in a plan. There's increased guidance from our federal partners on sequencing multiple services and multiple funding streams. So we want to look at how are we building those bridges so that plans and services can complement one another, and that each you're able to take advantage of the services that are available under all of these workforce funding streams.
And I'll just jump in too and say, as you look at this, please keep in mind that one provider doesn't have to do all the services. So you can have a provider who's terrific and experienced at getting people jobs, and they help Bob get a job. And then you can have another provider do the job coaching. And so the provider who got the person the job will work with the person and the job coaching provider to do a nice transition. But this, you don't have to know it all, which is why it's a great coming together, because we help each other figure this out. And I will also say to those of you who aren't already in the disability field, if you know how to get people a job, you can work with people with disabilities. Often Medicaid or the disability field is intimidating to people because they think I don't know how to do that, or I'm afraid I don't know all the words or the lingo. I'll tell you, as a person with a disability, as long as you have good intentions, as long as you have the desire to help people find jobs, please come in. We'll help you with the rest. But as long as you can get people jobs, and I see a lot of youth providers on here, and I was thinking about this morning, the first entity that helped me get a job that I shined at, and I wasn't awful at, I have cerebral palsy for those of you who don't know, my first jobs were like, with my hands, and it was very hard. But Clackamas Community College got me a job with the county, with the local computer guy in the basement, and I had an excellent summer. So anyway, please don't be intimidated by the word Medicaid. Please don't think, well, I haven't had any experience with people with disabilities, so I can't do this. Yes, you can. We want people who can get people jobs. So again, so excited you're here, and I'm going to hand it off to Brent.
Great. Thank you, Julie and Allison. Yes, just wanted to reiterate the between ODDS and WorkSource Oregon and all the different organizations and agencies that partner with those within these systems. There are so many resources available. And as Julie said, no one person or provider has to do it all. That's the value of these partnerships and working in a network, is you do what you can do well, and then you coordinate, and we can help coordinate to work with others to make sure that that person is having their needs met. I did want to share a little bit more about WorkSource Oregon before we move forward. So WorkSource Oregon, as I mentioned, is statewide. There are 37 independent WorkSource centers throughout the state. Each of these centers offers some of the same basic services, and then also has some programs or services that are tailored to the industries and the resources in their particular region. So WorkSource is free to any Oregonian, and the services are available. We can assist people in, of course, looking for work and developing skills, but somebody, if they want to be a WorkSource customer, whether they are unemployed or they are employed, these resources are always available to them. It's a publicly funded program. And so somebody can come to WorkSource multiple times over and over again. The resources are always there and available to them to meet whatever needs that they might have. And to share a little bit more about what some of these opportunities through WorkSource Oregon look like, it includes things such as labor market data. So if you're working directly with individuals on training or employment services, labor market information can help you understand what kind of jobs are available or what kind of industries are most in demand, which can help somebody make decisions around maybe a program they may like to pursue or a type of employment opportunity they might look into. WorkSource also offers skills development. Those can range from things like resume and cover letter writing assistance, both one-on-one or as part of a group workshop. They can also include things such as financial literacy through partnerships with Financial Beginnings Oregon and similar financial literacy organizations, as well as things along the lines of understanding what SNAP and TANF are. There may be individuals who qualify for things like food assistance programs, but they don't have an understanding of what they are, or they may find it difficult in navigating the enrollment process. So offering kind of 101 workshops so people can better understand the resources that might be available to them through not just the state, but also federal government, as well as local organizations. WorkSource can also provide support services to individuals while they are seeking employment or working towards some sort of credential. And that can include covering the cost of textbooks or learning tools. For example, if they are in a construction trades program or a construction apprenticeship, they may need things like work boots, hard hats, overalls, other types of clothing and tools and items that are unique to that particular like job and workplace setting. If they are in a medical oriented program or healthcare program, it may be that they need scrubs or other tools like stethoscopes, PPE, personal protective equipment, things like that. So WorkSource may be able to help cover the cost of those things, as well as assist with things like childcare, transportation, housing, technology. Other additional supports can include job search services, which I kind of touched on. I mentioned resume and cover letter writing, as well as interview prep. Those can be, again, through workshops with other people, but it also gives individuals an opportunity to work in an ongoing way, one-on-one with a career coach or workforce advisor, if they need more hands-on assistance. WorkSource can also provide job placement services, as well as opportunities for people to gain skills while earning money and working towards longer term employment through earn and learn models. So those could be paid work experiences or paid internships. And WorkSource also provides opportunities for employers and individuals in need of employment to engage and learn more about opportunities that are available. And then post-employment services may include, depending on the program, job retention services. It also includes, as I touched on, continued access to any of the other things that I'd covered already available through WorkSource Oregon. So again, just want to reiterate, if somebody is ever a customer at WorkSource Oregon, they can always be a customer at WorkSource Oregon. And the only qualification you need is to be a resident in Oregon, interested in developing new skills or finding employment. So I'll go, and just to reiterate, somebody had asked in the chat, we will be sharing out not only this PowerPoint, but we'll provide some additional information, including contact emails and links to websites if you would like to learn more. I know that between WorkSource and ODDS, it's a lot of information, and that people may have questions and want to do some light reading and see what's available to them. So we'll transition over to share a bit more about current and upcoming opportunities. So I'll hand it over to Jan Filgus from CWP, as well as Julie and Allison to share more about these.
And I'm going to hand it over to Bridget Daisy, my executive director.
Thank you, Brent. Thank you, Jan. So I think that there's a lot of opportunity in our future in working better together and tearing down some of these either walls that exist between programming and systems, as well as encouraging and fostering innovation with new programs and services available. So Clackamas Workforce Partnership will be releasing some RFPs, requests for proposals, offering several procurements in the next year. We will be soliciting for our WIOA, Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act service providers, as well as any other grants that we may receive in the form of ARPA dollars, state funds, or other competitive grants that we might be receiving and procuring for. And then also, I would encourage those of you on the call, if you serve other parts of the state, visiting any of the other local workforce boards websites, because they will be offering additional procurements throughout the year. As questions come through or new ideas, we may seek out specific grant funding to serve various populations or geographies. So again, partnership and talking about what you can offer, what ideas you have will be really imperative. I'm also just, before I turn it over to Allison, I'm just going to highlight the Oregon Future Ready funds that were passed this last legislative session. It was a $200 million investment from the state of Oregon. Part of it is state general funds and part of it is federal ARPA dollars. In the next month or so, $85 million will be released in the form of RFPs from the Higher Education Coordinating Commission. I want all of you to be keeping an eye out for those, because those are meant to stir innovation, create better systems alignment, and better sustainability within our public workforce system. And so creative ideas will be imperative to the programming and the participation of that RFP process. There are also other programs or state agencies that oversee Future Ready funds, the Bureau of Labor and Industry, the the Oregon Department of Education. And so there is a website, as you can see there, that lists all of the opportunities available through the state agencies. And if you have any questions, there are places to ask questions of that. Allison?
Yeah, and then the third bullet on there is just highlighting also the ODDS ARPA capacity grants made also available through the American Rescue Plan Act. There is funding for various projects, including some capacity building. We expect to be able to announce in the early part of 2023 grants that are being awarded for a first round of capacity building. Those grants, though, were due back on November 21st, but you can go to the ODDS, Google ODDS ARPA website. The link is on the presentation too, for just more information to be able to get on the list for additional updates. And yeah, again, as Bridget mentioned, all of these capacity building grants just represent some real great opportunities to make the types of investments that are needed to start up or expand this type of work, particularly when you're looking to collaborate and partner within or with multiple agencies and funding streams. So just a really great moment in time to build on a lot of the work that we've all been hoping to do.
And Allison, I wanted to share something quickly. Bridget touched on it, but just wanted to repeat both. We will send these links out separate from and as part of this presentation, and can provide some additional information specifically with the workforce boards. As Bridget mentioned, there are 9 of us. CWP may have funding opportunities available when some of our counterparts do not. Similarly, they may have funding opportunities available when CWP is not offering any. And because we are 9 separate regions, there's a lot of similar grant opportunities available among us, but each region also has some individual programs and initiatives that may have funding available that's unique to those things. So part of our follow-up can include a link to the State of Oregon Employment Department website, which lists the individual workforce boards and has information about them. So just want to encourage folks to continuously check in with their local workforce board in the region or regions that they're working with, because we do have some somewhat scheduled funding opportunities that come around at specific times of the year, but there are often also impromptu grants that have been awarded. So just to check in on those from time to time to see what's available. Allison or Bridget, was there anything else with capacity building or funding?
Only that CWP will be releasing a special procurement when we release our WIOA funds that's specific to services with for people with disabilities. Again, we are wanting to tighten the relationship between ODDS and the public workforce system. So we're going to be piloting a few things locally that we hope to expand and scale across the state as we learn lessons and dive deeper into what a stronger partnership looks like.
Great. So, oh, sorry, Allison.
Oh, no.
I was gonna say, it looks like our next, this is our next slide, and it looks like there are some questions in the chat box. So folks can feel free to use the chat box or use the hand raise feature on the video. We'll do our best to answer questions here and now. And of course, we'll work to do follow-up if it's something that requires us to do a little bit of research or information gathering, or just getting contact information for people. So please do add any questions you have in the chat feature, just in case we need to review that for follow-up. But otherwise, I'll turn it over to folks to ask any questions they may have.
Brent,
And
will you go ahead and
presenters,
stop
we
sharing the presentation so we can see, folks can either turn their camera on or ask more directly.
and presenters, we already have 3 questions in the chat for you.
I see that. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, looking at the first question, Ken, is there a person I can speak to directly about remote LTS job coaching services? Could you provide a name and number? Whether you're looking for something locally or at the state level, again, information will be provided after the meeting with contact information for both CWP, the other local workforce areas, and the Office of Developmental Disability Services. So you should be able to find that in a subsequent email. And John asks, is there any options to provide to customers in teleservices and federal programs that might be overbearing local services to out of states and other state county resources? John, will you clarify your question? I just want to make sure.
Absolutely. So for example, the options that Clackamas Community College offers sometimes can give out to like Starkloff in St. Louis, Missouri, and it has a different pod of different customers and different types of other resources in comprehension and stuff. So my question is, can workforce refer to other counties and tele options if they're unable to fulfill the options locally in the county, where maybe other states or other resources in workforce may or may not have those provided in the resources for those with and without disabilities?
That's a fantastic question and interesting. I think that there are federal options and resources that we can post. So much of the resources are meant for local community members, people who work and learn in that community. But I'd like to dig a little deeper into that question and think and learn more about like what is not available in our area, because ultimately what we'd like to do is offer the resources that are needed in our community. And if it's available somewhere else, we can learn lessons from that community and figure out how to bring them here. So maybe in a subsequent conversation, we can dig into where there's some lacking, how we might be able to tap into federal programs or other communities' resources and expand here locally. Is that?
I'm willing to talk to other partnerships at hand and then back to you after this call, but I needed to understand that for other customers and what your workforce, people here on the call may or may not have available or not available. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, John. Melissa,
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Bridget.
Melissa's question, is there a way that WorkSource can advocate to employers to partner with provider agencies to find employees? 100%. Absolutely. That's the role of the local workforce boards is to help be that connective tissue, a convener and broker of relationships. So as employers are looking for talent, which right now, so many of our industry partners are screaming for people. And so we know that there's these populations and individuals in our community that can do the work, that we just need to help our employer community understand the benefits of working with people with differences, either cultural or ability, and seeing just expanding what their possibilities could look like. So that does exist in that advocacy through multiple partners like vocational rehab, Office of Developmental Disability Services, the Employment Department, the local workforce boards. And if there are specific advocacy points that that you'd like us to elevate in addition to accommodations and just hiring, recruitment, and advancement opportunities for people with disabilities, go ahead and let us know what those are. I'm gonna let Allison or Brent start to read off some of the other questions.
Yeah, I will start with Mara's question and then turn over to Allison. And Mara's question is if there are funds available for-profit businesses. So through the WorkSource Oregon and the individual workforce boards in the state, there may be resources available to for-profit employers to assist with hiring or expansion of their hiring practices to hire and train more people with disabilities. They may be in the form of grants, or they may be in the form of other program non-monetary resources that employers in a for-profit business can have access to, which may include training and professional development, as well as some consultation services around hiring and onboarding policies, providing reasonable accommodations, things along those lines. I do believe that ODDS has some resources related to that though, so I will let Allison and Julie share more about that.
Yeah, I was going to say, most of our employment service providers are nonprofits, but not all of them. It's not a requirement. There was some discussion about it last legislative session, but that is not a requirement. The other thing I was going to mention was that we did have some ability to and guidance regarding job coaching, long-term job coaching, and being able to deliver that service remotely even before the pandemic. But we just published some guidance on what that will look like after the pandemic. And it is certainly allowed to deliver remote job coaching services. It just needs to be based on the person's support needs and the person's preference, really driven by what it is that the person needs, written into their plan if they're the in-person, face-to-face contact requirements that are needed. And with our, to elaborate just a little bit more, our funding model does assume that there's a certain amount of face-to-face direct contact, because it pays based on the number of hours that the person works. And as I said before, there's a certain amount of in-person direct contact that's assumed with that. But really it's driven by the person and what their support needs are.
And if there are other questions, we still have a little over 5 minutes left, so please ask those. I just wanted to share one thing that Allison, Julie, Bridget, Jan, and I can do is some of the links that you see in the chat. We can kind of categorize those links based on the question, if that makes sense.
So Julie, I just dropped a bunch of links in the chat. Someone was asking if they could see ODDS employment providers, and we have a wealth of information on our website. So 3 different links there for people who are interested, and our web person does a great job, and you can see our providers even broken out by county. So just wanted to explain that in the chat.
And Ellen asked if there were programs for seniors who are interested in part-time work or work opportunities other than full-time. I will share that through WorkSource Oregon, that can help anyone meet any of their employment goals for the most part. So if a senior comes in and does want to find part-time work or seasonal work in particular, they can work with a workforce advisor to do that. And any sort of skills development or job search or job preparation assistance they might need is also available to them through general WorkSource services. There are programs through organizations like Easter Seals Oregon that work out of the WorkSource centers. Traditionally, I believe they are targeted at getting people age 55 and older into full-time work with benefits. However, there may be some flexibility to some of those programs. So Easter Seals Oregon may be another resource for the 55 and over community. But again, just want to reiterate, anyone of any age could use WorkSource general services to find full or part-time or seasonal employment.
Right, but no services that are geared at employers who maybe want to hire seniors. It's all on the onus of the job seeker at this point.
Oh, sorry, I misunderstood. I didn't,
Services.
yeah, I didn't see get the employer component. I don't know if Bridget or Allison or anyone else has a more concrete answer. I believe that there are probably, I mean, I know that there are employers who have worked with some of our community-based partners to hire an array of different workers who maybe are highly barriered in some ways. So I imagine that there are some employers who do hire specifically for older individuals, and we can do a little behind the scenes digging to see if we can find either specific programs geared towards that or specific employers.
We were also even talking the other day about, what a great idea it might be to think about retired seniors to be thinking about working as job coaches and being excellent mentors for folks starting a job or expanding their career with maybe the right fit or match. So I think that's kind of like a great example of a innovative idea, that could potentially even be a proposal for one of the grants or one of the partnerships forged. And then I saw another really great idea in the chat that Jan was putting about, we have a job board, Impact Oregon, to highlight careers of employment specialists, and how do we build and elaborate and partner on that and make sure that maybe bridge something with the workforce too. So a lot of really great ideas, and it seems like maybe just everyone's starting to warm up and get started with some really cool ideas. And I know that that's one thing that we definitely wanted to make sure to do was like emphasize that this is really just a start to the discussion, and we want to continue the discussion, and we'd like your contact information if you'd like to continue to engage and participate, and we'll take some of this back. And I'm wondering if we even want to think about getting everyone's contact information, seeing what our next steps, maybe doing a survey just to get feedback and thoughts on folks on this initial first step, and then figure out where we go from here.
That's a good idea. Thanks.
Great, thank you.
And Allison, with that, I do have I have emails for everyone. So part of that follow-up can be both if there are additional questions that surface later, as well as people who maybe have some concrete ideas that they want to move forward with and maybe are interested in some sort of follow-up conversation or connection or referral to another partner or provider.
Great. Yeah, people are putting their contact information in the chat. Did we want to, we can also share, did you say, Brent, you were going to send out email for folks to then so they could respond and follow up?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
And we can add the links that have been added to the chat feature, definitely.
And I did put, again, we'll, I know between Julie and Allison and Amy and myself and probably some others, there are some links and attachments in there. We'll curate those for you a little bit and then do a send out. I did put the PowerPoint in the chat, but we'll make sure that's included as an attachment.
Great. Well, everyone, thank you so much again for participating today. We're really excited for, the ideas that we're getting going here. So thank you.
Great. And quickly, there was a final comment made about contact information for other folks on the call. We can do in a follow-up survey, allow people to opt in or opt out of sharing that, and then can send out a roster of contact information with people's name and email and agency or organization.
Super, thank you again. Really good stuff.